Meeting starting, we're going to have Susan administer the oath of office to Dave Bailey and to Eric Dolan. And Tom Kennis is going to be late, and so when he comes, we'll stop the meeting and have him sworn in, and then continue on with the meeting.
Mr. Bailey, Mr. Dolan, raise your right hand. And repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of council member
of the office of council member
in and for the village of Oxford,
in and for the village of Oxford,
county of Oakland,
county of Oakland,
and the state of Michigan,
in the state of Michigan,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Mr. Bailey, Mr. Dolan, congratulations.
It's your chance to run.
Okay, Joe, do you want to?
Can I pray? Sure, you have to. Bow our heads, please. Dear God, we thank you for this Thanksgiving season and all your many blessings that you endow upon us. I ask you to be with us this evening and help us deliberate, bring decisions that will be glory to the village of Oxford, and to your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Okay, Susan, do you want to do roll call, please?
Councilmember Bailey.
Present.
President Passardi.
Yes.
Councilmember Dolan.
Present.
Councilmember Helmut.
Yes.
Councilmember Kennis will be late.
Okay. Entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Helmut, supported by Dolan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Call to the public on non-agenda items. If you have anything to say, you need to come up to the podium and identify yourself. Okay. And we have unfinished old business. A, 98 Glassby, sale of property and offers. Joe, do you want to start, or Bob?
Well, Council, I think that your real estate company made a presentation at the last meeting saying, the way I heard it, give us a list of specifications that you're looking for with respect to this property, because we're kind of flapping in the wind. We don't know what you want. We don't know what your price is. We don't know what your proposed use is. Could you help us out and give us some guidance? And I think that you put it on the agenda for this evening to have that discussion. In the interim, I sent you a memo sometime between the last meeting and now, wherein I laid out in very short order the things that I thought the folks were looking for. One would be a price, one would be a payment term, one would be general terms, and I had indicated to you that I believe the purchase agreement should be as is, with all conditions, including environmental conditions of the land, the property, the subsurface soils and buildings being taken as is. A 90-day due diligence period with a $10,000 non-refundable for an additional 90-day due diligence period, and I thought that the village should provide the Phase 1 ESA and the Phase 2 ESA results, which you approved the modified Phase 2 at the last meeting. The buyer would be allowed under the purchase agreement to get an a baseline environmental assessment consistent with the new buyer's use at the buyer's sole expense, and that you would, at this meeting, discuss what types of uses you would find acceptable under the zoning and under your wishes for a purchase agreement. I really think that your real estate folks are just saying, hey, you got to help us out. Give us some terms that, when we have it, we'll bring it back to you. If we don't have it, we won't bring it back to you. Give us some guidance. And so I've given you some thoughts for that guidance.
We might come to the real estate broker did bring in today a written offer from the proposal that was made at the last council meeting, the industrial use, the light industrial use for the ergonomics business. And they were basically looking to know whether we would want to accept industrial uses or not, or just residential. And in your packet, I did provide for you what our current master plan, redevelopment plan for 98 Glassby, which is for residential. Also in your packet was an email from Kelly Arkles, who's here regarding her input on the project, site as well.
So you see the industrial offer is, got a price, it's a land contract as opposed to a cash purchase. It has, they want a copy of the Phase 1 and the Phase 2. They need a rezoning back to accommodate their industrial use. It doesn't talk about the as-is nature, but we could discuss that. So anyways, that's where we're at. I think you promised your real estate folks some guidance. So we should hear from council and the folks.
Well, I'm going to throw it out on the table. I'm not interested in anything other than residential. So I think the price that you put down, while I'd like to get more, I'm trying to be reasonable about it. I agree with the rest of what you have put down.
I'm of the exact same mindset. I won't accept, for my money, anything other than residential. The community's spoken, in my opinion. They've made their voices clear. This has been going on for a number of years, and we're, in my opinion, consuming a lot of the village's time. I'd like to see it decided with some finality. I don't know if we're in a position where we can assign a minimum value to the property without the Phase 2. I guess I would...
Yeah,
Wait until we get that back.
we signed the
before-
document, and I spoke to them again today. They're getting started. We'll know that shortly.
My opinion is that there could be a lot of variables that come out of that, dependent upon the results, and regardless of whether they are positive or not necessarily as positive as we would hope, I think there might be a need and a desire for the residential irrespective of that. However, a potential developer might want to reduce their costs.
Yeah.
And we still have a need to unload this property. I would only consider residential personally.
I just,
Sue, you got more?
part of the reason the village paid so much money for this property was to protect its well field. And I think taking that back to industrial totally negates the fact that we did that.
Right.
We left the property available for a PUD. If someone comes with an interesting use that is compatible with the area, I don't see any problem with considering that. And there are uses that do fit into residential areas. But to zone it industrial, with a PUD, we have control over what use goes in there. You can't zone for a use. And the gentleman who was here who wanted the property, it's a great use, but unfortunately you don't zone for a use. And there's plenty of vacant buildings that he could go into. I think we need to just let people know we're not interested in any industrial there. That whatever goes there has to be either residential or compatible to a residential district.
Dave?
Yeah, last go-around of this, I believe I was on council for at least part of that time. And I was also very concerned about it being located right on top of our well field. And that's partly a matter of actual geography and partly a matter of perception, because in fact, our water is drawn from a larger area than just right over the top of the wells. I guess, I don't know to what extent a municipality can have control over what kind of industrial takes place. No, I guess if it's a PUD, then the community does have some say about what kind of industrial.
Well, you have your normal zoning category, which it is currently zoned residential, right?
Yes.
Single family.
Yes.
Right.
And it's a common perception that residential is clean and industrial is dirty. I don't necessarily see it quite that way. Industrial can be dirty, and if it is dirty, then the question is how much pollutants would be in danger of being put into the environment. They say in medicine, in toxicology, the dose makes the poison. And just about anything can be poisonous if the dose is large, and just about anything can be almost harmless if the dose is small. In the case of residential, yeah, you think, yeah, it's clean, but in reality, there's a huge amount of diversity in what a particular plot would have on it. As an example, I have reason to believe that there's arsenic in many residential plots currently, partly as a result of maybe lawn treatments and such, compressed wood used in construction. They call it compressed. They don't call it arsenic wood for obvious reasons. It wouldn't sell if it weren't called compressed wood. So my perception is there is no use aside from just a vacant lot, which has zero risk of pollution of our water.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at.
So
So for clarification, are you suggesting you wanted a vacant lot?
No, I'm not.
Well,
For one thing,
Let's discuss that, Dave, because environmentally, a vacant lot has certain problems too, because of runoff and constant non-management of the water. If you remember back to, is Chuck Schneider around? You remember back to Chuck Schneider's development plan, one of the issues that was addressed, I think you remember, was how are you going to manage the site water? Because when you get a development, now you're managing runoff as opposed to the natural ongoing occurring runoff, which is happening now.
Yeah.
I personally think that there's some bad, it's not a great situation having no development there because you have no control over the water,
also,
the surface water.
right now, it is in a sense a vacant lot in that there's nothing happening on it. But-
That's true.
But back in the days when this was an issue previously, I had occasion to walk the property, and I found all kinds of 55-gallon oil drums with the diamond-shaped warning labels on them, and they were all rusted out. I'm thinking, oh my God, all this stuff has gone into the soil.
Yep.
And it hasn't been cleaned up adequately, as far as I know. So even though it is, in a sense, presently a vacant lot, it's not a clean vacant lot, in my opinion, at all.
Okay. All right, so we seem to, Sue, you want to hear from the public now? Or?
Yep. Anybody? Chuck?
I'll just pass along a few thoughts on this property and how you market it and how you maximize your income. So I think you have to look at this. First of all, I'm totally confused how you can have a listing without this stuff being in the listing. Is there a listing? I mean, how do you have a listing without a price and terms and zoning? I mean, how's that possible? I mean, you can't have a listing without those things in the listing. So I'm confused how you got to the point where these things aren't in the listing. But from my perspective, if I were doing the listing, first of all, it would not be industrial under no circumstances. Because even if you have a user who's a low-intense user, what if he sells to somebody else who isn't a low-intense user? So that the direction to the Realtor would be no industrial, period. The second thing is you got to look at you want a certain amount of money for this property, so a land contract is not part of the equation either. It's a cash or cash to a mortgage, not a land contract. You need the green cash. That's the whole purpose of selling the property, not to get your money over 10 years. So how do you maximize that cash? I personally will list the property at $350,000. Because when you do that, you have to understand that you can negotiate off that position based on who the user is. If Chuck Snyder's going to put a $10 million project in there, some communities would give him the property versus somebody else who's going to put in 15 houses, and you're not going to really get that much tax base out of it. So the other thing I do is I clean up the zoning of the property. Right now, it's a split zone. It's R1, R3. I don't know why we have a split zone on this piece of property. Should be one zoning. If I were calling the shots, it would be MR2, not residential R1 or R2. The reason being, you're not going to get enough money out of that property if it's only R1 or R2, because you can't put enough on the property. You have to, what you should be doing is hiring somebody to lay out that site. What's the most logical layout of residential on that property? And how many home sites are there going to be based on your ordinance? Not based on the PUD, based on your ordinance. And that in turn will tell you how much tax base you're going to generate. Under your ordinance, they can build a house in there 900 square feet. That is not a very big house. So at $100 a square foot, how much is that? Not a lot of money. So you're not going to generate any big, gigantic tax base because you're going to put 15 cracker boxes in there, because that's what the guy can do. He can put a 900 square foot cracker box in there. You're not going to put a $250,000 house in there, because the houses across the street are under $200,000. And he's between a water treatment plant and a park. So I think your best route is to go MR2, because you can get a little bit more density. Under MR2, that's 15 units per acre. You got 3 acres there, so you're talking about 45 units. It's going to give you more tax revenue. And you may come off the price if the guy shows you a plan that you like and that you think is going to generate a higher tax base for yourself. So, I mean, the key is clean up the zoning, pick a price that you can live with. You're going to take a haircut on this deal anyway you cut the cake. It's just a question of how much. But if you get a decent tax base in there, that will mitigate some of your loss because you got a higher tax base coming in. So I just think it's pretty clear what you got to do here. I don't think it's very confusing at all.
Thanks, Chuck. Anybody else?
If I remember the process correctly, Kelly Archibald, 21 Well, I agree with Mr. Schneider completely that industrial, just to me, is unacceptable for that very reason. My concern is, and I was considering things that, could it possibly be storage? I mean, it's been storage for a very long time. None of us who live on the lake knew about it. But then when I read the zoning ordinances, and this is actually more of a question, is the storage goes under industrial, is that correct? Okay, then my concern would be just as Mr. Schneider had said, so there's a low-impact person that comes in at first, they could easily sell to someone that has very, very high invasive. And that obviously is a concern to me living on Round Lake. You know, another thing with industrial for me, noise pollution. We hear everything, and sometimes it's lovely, and sometimes it's not. But that location, I fear the noise pollution would be severe. I disagree with multifamily. I think that back in February, March, April, that the community spoke very clear about the density. I still believe an MR2 would be too high of a density in that location. I think that lake is already overpopulated, and that happened before I even moved there. So I don't agree with that. My feeling is, and this is going to shock everyone, I want to park. I've always wanted to park. I'll always want to park. I know, it's shocking.
Give us 300 grand and we'll give you a park.
I'm trying, actually, believe it or not. But I do understand that that potentially is not feasible unless I come up with 300 grand. So I would just ask, and another point that I think Mr. Schreiner made that I loved is I'm confused by the fact that we have this split zoning. I'm also confused by why we do have a listing that doesn't have a zoning and a price. But my feeling is, and most of the people that I've spoken with in the community or in my area, is keep it as zoned. And low density, and I understand that the tax base might not be high, but I feel like the residents are paying ourselves in a lack of potential quality of life for a decision made not by us years back. And I don't want to see that happen.
Kelly, you don't think there would be a lot of noise with a park?
There already is a lot of noise with the park, but...
Right,
but...
But you view that as pleasant noise?
I don't find it intrusive.
Okay.
And you know what? And I cannot lie. There are times when it is intrusive.
Yeah.
When we have teenagers there who decide to spew some obscenities, I get very upset. I don't have children, but there's a number of children on my lake, and it's upsetting. And I'm probably one of the many people who call the police department in those situations. But to me, recreation, and I understand our financial state right now, recreation in the small community, I think, is very huge. And I think that I would be so much more willing to have that extension because I think it's going to bring a lot more to our community. But again, I understand that that's not feasible. So my request, keep it as zoned, maybe blend the zoning. I would prefer having the lowest density residential possible. And but definitely do not entertain industrial offers. That's it. Thank you.
It's currently split zone. Does anybody have the history on that?
I think the zone that just follows the lot lines. So I think the front half, and I'd have to look at the map, is industrial, and the back is single family, or I could have it backwards.
It's R1 in front.
I think it's
and R3 in the back.
Okay, and it just follows the lot line, and, you know,
But when you bought the piece of property, you combined the two parcels theoretically because you're the sole owner.
okay, but on the plat map, that doesn't show up on the plat map because we don't combine Sidwell numbers because there's a cost to that. So we just have two Sidwell numbers, one for the front piece, one for the back. And that's just where McKenna drew the line, and
If I'm not mistaken, isn't that one of the those two parcels that we're looking to clean up the zoning on?
Yes, we are.
The zoning is going to be a non-issue in the short term anyways.
Anyone else?
did you want to?
Tom, did you want to weigh in? Oh, we have to swear you in. We have to swear you in. We have to swear you
I
in.
just want to apologize for
Tom?
being late.
Tom, you can't
Tom,
speak.
you can't speak. We need
Did
to
you already
swear
sit
you
down?
in
You can't even
first.
sit down. Yeah, there you go, stand up.
You're under arrest.
Sorry about that.
You're under arrest.
I went right by it.
Okay, Mr. Kennis, will you raise your right hand? I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and, hold on.
Okay.
I need my glasses, I'm sorry. And the Constitution of this state.
And that I will
will
ahead.
faithfully perform the duties of the office of council member in and for the village of Oxford, county of Oakland, and state of Michigan, according to the best of my ability. So help me God.
Yay.
Do I have to sign it too?
Are we ready?
Is the next
Running
good?
editorial?
I'm ready without any edit.
Yeah, me too. I didn't.
So Tom, just to bring you up to speed, we've been talking just about, we've focused down to the use of the property.
98.
98, yeah. We've heard from the council generally favoring residential, and it seems in the audience so far, it's been
And
comments about.
I just want to apologize to everyone for being late. So, I'm here.
Did you want to say anything about 98 Glassby, or you want to just?
I'll tell you, we have been through this for several years. We absolutely know where, everybody stands. It is never going to be a property that we're going to make money on, and that is not the issue. The issue is we have to determine where we as a village stand on this. We cannot hold people off, off coming up with programs and projects. And so we definitely have to make a decision regarding.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I would move to approve that the property marketing and sales for the 98 Glassby property be as included in the Near East Side redevelopment plan in pages 23 through 25 for residential use only.
I'll support that for discussion. What does those pages call out any particular code of residential, or does it just say residential? R1, et cetera?
I think it's
It
explained.
does cite
It was-
R1 through R3. However, again, that's in the process of being modified.
Yeah.
Eric, are you also okay with the balance of these general terms? The rough purchase price of 300, the cash terms, the as-is, the due diligence, the phase 1, phase 2, the...
For discussion, I am comfortable with the terms,
Okay. I mean, passing those along.
with the exemption of the price. Again, I don't know that we're necessarily in a position where we can assess a price at this point, and I think at this point, we should be soliciting for potential bids. I understand the concept of putting the price in the offer sheet. I know it's standard. This is not necessarily a standard real estate transaction, however, and I don't think we have the appropriate amount of information. I understand that council purchased this property many years ago. There is no doubt that we are never going to recoup the losses of this property. I don't necessarily think that this transaction is simply about monetary value and soliciting a particular amount of tax revenue. I think it's also about establishing that property is a good fit for the surrounding community. It's a multifaceted transaction, in my opinion.
I
So
think that's true about every property, though.
I would agree. However, I think some are more specifically designated or suitable for particular needs. This one is not necessarily the case, in my opinion.
Good question. Has anybody looked into the feasibility of subdividing so that we end up with multiple parcels?
We already have multiple parcels.
Well, I know of two.
You mean splits?
Yeah, lot splits, yeah. I don't know if anybody has looked into that.
That would help you, it's still double what development costs. Instead of having one water line, you have two water lines, so that would not be
That would hurt the infrastructure costs, wouldn't it?
double what the costs.
All right.
Okay.
My motion stands.
Are you
And
gonna
my support
Your
stands.
support? Okay. We have a motion by Dolan, supported by
Could
Bailey.
we repeat the, is this motion plus Bob's terms with the exception of the price.
I omitted the terms at this point because
Okay.
I don't necessarily know that we're in a position to establish marketing terms yet.
So it's just what's written here?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, Susan, do you want to do a roll call, please?
Councilmember Helmuth,
Yes.
Councilmember Kennis,
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey,
Yes.
Councilmember Dolan,
Yes.
President Basardi.
Yes.
I have a practical question. This refers to pages 23 and 25. For purposes of the archives of the Village of Oxford, should that text be taken from those pages and inserted into this motion? Because otherwise, somebody could scratch in his head, what is this 23 to 25? That 20 years from now, they'll be trying to figure that out. So I don't see any objection to having the actual verbiage in there. What do you think?
Well, it's in your packet, pages 23 to 25.
I understand. I'm not
You can attach them
confused.
to the minutes.
I was going to just say, can't we attach them to the minutes?
Yeah, okay, that's a good
Include
solution.
them with the motion and
That's a
the
good
minutes.
solution.
Thanks. Okay, new business. Performance reviews of the village clerk and village manager. And they've each asked for a closed session.